everybody, today we're going to talk about quadratic equations in Desmos. Let's solve x squared minus 3x minus 10 equals 0. We can take factors of negative 10 that give us negative 3, which would be x minus 5 times x plus 2. When we set each factor equal to 0, we get two solutions, x equals 5 and x equals negative 2. If we go to Desmos and enter this equation exactly as we had it to begin, we'll have x squared minus 3x minus 10, and we want to say equal to 0. Notice this shows us two places where it intersects the x-axis, at x equals negative 2 and x equals 5, which are our two solutions, so we know that we did it right. But if you would like this to look a little bit better in Desmos, we can replace the 0 with a y. This will show us what x squared minus 3x minus 10 looks like as a function, and it won't just give us two vertical lines for our solution. So back in Desmos, I'll change the 0 to a y, and I get this nice curve. You can zoom in if you want to see a little more of the graph. But again, we can see the negative 2 and the 5 as our solutions for this quadratic. Our next equation is x squared plus 13x equals 48. Remember, our first step is to set the equation equal to 0. Now that we have x squared plus 13x minus 48 equals 0, let's say we factored into x plus 3 times x minus 16, which gives us x is negative 3 and x is 16. Back in Desmos, I type x squared plus 13x minus 48, and this time let's go ahead and call that y. And I can see a graph, and I see one point that says x equals 3, and then we can zoom in a lot to find our other point of negative 16. So let's compare our 3 and negative 16 to the solution we found earlier. Notice our signs don't match. Let's take a look at the signs of our initial factoring. I had plus 3 and negative 16, which doesn't work. 3 and negative 16 is negative 13, not a positive 13x. I need to flip my signs to get the right factors. This gives us the solutions of 3 and negative 16 that we saw in Desmos, and we quickly caught our small mistake in signs. Let's look at 2x squared minus 5x minus 12 is 0. Again, we factor 2x plus 3 and x minus 4. This says 2x is negative 3, x is positive 4, so x is negative 3 halves and x is equal to 4. So I'll type 2x squared minus 5x minus 12, and we'll say equals y. I can see the solutions of negative 1.5, which is equal to negative 3 halves, and positive 4. Let's try one more, and this time we're not going to factor. I have 4 times x minus 3 squared is 5. I want to use the square root method. My first step is to divide by 4, so I have x minus 3 squared is 5 over 4. Now I take the square root of both sides. The square root of x minus 3 squared will be equal to the square root of 5 over 4. On the left I have x minus 3. On the right, I put plus or minus to show I have two solutions. I keep the square root of 5 in the numerator, but in the denominator, the square root of 4 is equal to 2. To isolate the x, I just need to bring the 3 over to the right. So my two solutions are 3 plus or minus the square root of 5 over 2. To check my solutions in Desmos, I want to write this as 4 times x minus 3 squared minus 5 is equal to y. So like before, I set the equation equal to 0, and I put a y where I had a 0. In my graph, I see two intercepts. I have 4.11803, and I have 1.88197. Our solutions were 3 plus the square root of 5 over 2 and 3 minus the square root of 5 over 2. Those two numbers correspond to the 2 points we see on the graph. Again, this is a great way to verify that you have the correct solution, but you want to make sure that you're putting in exact answers into the homework. You don't want to put in 4.11803 and 1.88197 as your solutions. You want to remember to put 3 plus or minus the square root of 5 over 2 so we have the exact answers to our quadratic equation. Remember here, we are using Desmos as a check, not as a solver.